to the business card. So to make sure you're doing it the right way, you're going to create a new file in InDesign. And obviously for this we're not doing web, we're doing print. And you want to measure in millimeters. And you're going to have 2 pages. And it's very important that you turn off this little tick, which is probably on automatically. It says facing pages. We don't want facing pages, we want 2 single pages, which will be front and back. The margins, you might want to play with the margins. They're just to help guide how close things are to the edge. But the very important thing is the 3mm bleed all round. So if you hit the little link, you'll get 3mm bleed all round. If those margins are a bit big for you, you could look at, that's what I'm saying, if you look at an actual printing company that's doing business cards, they'll have their particular guidelines for the margins. It's just so that text doesn't get too close to the edge. Okay, so once you've done that, just say create. Oops, and look, I made a mistake, I didn't put landscape. Okay, so just do it again. New document, make sure it's in millimeters. Make sure you put landscape. And you put in the measurements that are on the brief. So the measurements on the brief are 91 by 55 millimeters. So back here, yeah, so check the brief, because that's what they've asked you for, but normally you would be looking at a printing website like Vistaprint, for example. Use whatever they say, and often they'll actually give you the template and you just use the template. So sometimes you want curved edges on a business card, for example. You want to go to the printing company and get their actual templates. So 91 by 55 is what we want. So we do need to do landscape. So make sure it's a print document. You're measuring in millimeters. You've turned off facing pages. And this is 99 for your long edge and 55 for your short edge. And just say landscape. So it should look like that. And we have 2 pages only. And we also need to make sure that we have down here the 3mm bleed all round. So that's more like it. You see what I mean about the margins being a bit crazy? That's just the default margin. So you can go up to here in the layout tab after you've created it and look at margins and columns and go, okay, that doesn't really suit. I just want to have a margin so that I don't put text too close to the edges. So even a 5mm margin is enough to make sure that I'm not putting text too close to the edges. So it's front and back. So you can have different margins for both, but I'm just going to put 5 because that looks a bit more realistic. And then I won't put any text too close to the edges. So then you go ahead and design the whole thing, put your assets on there. When you finish it, and make sure any solid objects, say you want a colour across the whole thing, so that's just a square I've drawn. I want to make sure that background colour or anything else that is going to hang off the edges, so that is going to be trimmed. That whole area there, that 3mm, is going to be chopped off. So if you only do your shape or background or whatever element right to the edge of the document, when they come to trim it, you'll end up with a white line along the edges. So bleed is a really important concept in all your print stuff. So you just drag out anything. It could be a word, it could be anything. If it's meant to just hang off the edge of the page, then make sure you're doing that. So I'll put the same on, I'll put a different colour on the background so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So the red line is the bleed line. I'll just put that in there. So you go ahead and design. If you want to check out what it's looking, then go to the little preview button which is down here, and you can see what the actual design looks like without the bleed on it. So it can throw your designing off in terms of balance and where things are close. So always check in the preview mode. Then when you think it's ready, you're going to export it. Okay, so this becomes quite important. You've got to export it as a PDF. PDF for print. So let's call it practice. And for business card. Make sure it's Adobe PDF print, and whenever you hit the save button, you'll get this coming up, and then you get a chance to talk about what you want to include in the PDF. So the general, I often do this, open in view PDF after I export it, just so I can check it. The rest you're pretty much okay with. The one place you really need to go is marks and bleeds, and check that you've got your all printers marks turned on, and very importantly, use document bleed settings, and you'll notice it picks up on 3, and slug, that's really just for the printing edge to grip the edges of it. So if a printer says add some slug, it's just like a little bit of extra paper around the edge of your project. So you don't need to worry about that unless the printer tells you to put it on. And then export it. And then that's what it should look like. So it's got all the printers bars on, so they can check the printing density, they can check that the inks are covering properly, and very importantly that the registration marks are on. Because when you're doing any kind of print work, if those aren't on, how are the different coloured plates? So they go through, 4 times at least, cyan, magenta, yellow and black, possibly with a spot colour. How are they all lining up so that everything's in the right position? And then you have the trim marks. So those inside trim marks, because you said include document bleed, there they are, and the automatic guillotining that goes on, their computer can find those and then slice it in exactly the right place. Those outside ones just show you the edge of the document. It's these inside ones that are created through your include document bleed setting when you're exporting the PDF. So make sure you're doing all of that, get everything in there. And the other thing you might want to do is, if you're putting an images in there, or text or anything, I'll just chuck something on there. Just check under window links to make sure that you've got what you think you've got. So when you're typing into InDesign, make sure when you do the PDF, it'll give you an error. When you do the export, it'll give you an error message if you don't have all the fonts that you think you've got. So you can, if you're worried about that, you can consider outlining like your main fonts in your logo design, for example. You should have done that anyway. So that's really all I need to go through with you. Just make sure you're setting it up correctly with the bleed, and then make sure you've got the right assessment document open and that you're filling it in. And then you're going to upload the PDF, but also drag it in here to this document. So we've got a visual example of it. And the same with your web banner, you can actually just drag a still version of it. It asks for it somewhere here. Yeah, but you've got to get the feedback, so you should be able to do that this lesson. What's going on the business card? So it gives you an outline of what to do. So you've got the business name, so that'll be whatever design you made for Journale. So as well as any visual separate icon that you made. Chief Executive, that can be you, but use the word, you've got to put this text on, Chief Executive and your name. Make yourself Chief Executive. And then the email and a contact, make up a phone number, just make it up. Include your logo. Yeah, so whatever logo you've designed, you're going to put that on there. You might have designed a pattern as part of your style guide, then this is a perfect opportunity to use it, right? That's why you did the style guide. Make sure you're using all the correct colours that you designated in your style guide. If you haven't finished designating colours with CMYK colours, I'll bring the swatch books back in and you can make sure you're using the right colours, or could be solid Pantones, depending on what you had. And then submit the business card, print ready. Yep, so that's it. And you can go and have a look at the size guides. It's got the link to Vistaprint. Eventually you'll be printing out your own business card, so it's really good to get familiar. Vistaprint's great. And they've got lots of templates, so you know, if for your own business card you want to do curved edges or something like that, you'll have a look there. You'll see there's lots of templates you can get from them. And they're going to be very similar size, although you can get square ones. So you can have some fun with that when you in second semester when you do your own business card. So test your fonts out, print it out here once you've got it done, because you want to test the actual font sizes out to see if it's readable at the font size you've got. So some fonts will be quite hard to read, even at 8 point. Don't go any lower than 8 point. You're getting so tiny you won't be able to read it, but you will need to test it out. Alright, so finish your banner, show it to somebody, identify at least 2 improvements you could make. Now you could go back and do them if you want to, but really what we just want to identify is, you know, get feedback. Anything else you could do that would make it more interesting. It could be something like colour contrasts are not working well. It could be something they notice like that, or it's sliding on too fast or too slow, or okay, so you could go and adjust it. And then 2 improvements with your business card, and then the job assistant. So, okay, it's got, yeah, look, sorry, that's a misprint there. That should say business card. Yeah, so one is evaluating the business card. The heading's there, just the text was wrong. One's evaluating the business card, and one's evaluating the web banner. So do the web banner first because you've got everybody here, get feedback, and then do the same with the business card. Away you go. All right, any questions on that?